Hey neighbor, how do you grow a healthy watermelon plant? Well, that can be problematic sometimes. Even I have troubles as I'm having right now. But we're going to talk about today, how do you rescue these plants? How do you bring these plants to be good, healthy plants, even in some adverse conditions? Melons in general have disease problems. That's just the nature of the plant. Now we normally don't have very little, if any, insect problems with growing melons. But disease problems with melons is troublesome. We always have that. It's just the nature of the game growing watermelons. And if you're going to grow good, healthy watermelon plants, you need to understand that and have a strategy in place for that. Now, just the other night, right after I planted my watermelons on this lazy garden kit, we got 6 inches of rain in one night, which is something very unusual for us, but it happened. Storms rolled in here and boom, dumped 6 inches of rain. My plants suffered for days. I couldn't even walk in here because I would bog up to my ankles. So I just had to sit back on the sideline and watch my plants struggle. And then in a few days, it dried up. At that point, I had to get in there and do some damage control. Now that being said, my plants were starting to look rough. I was seeing some disease problems on them. But the reality is, I don't know of anything I could have done to help that out. I mean, if I'd had a fungicide application on there before that rain, I'm not sure what good that would have done because it would have got washed off. And you know, I just planted them 2, 3, 4, 5 days before that storm there. So I was just hoping everything would get established. Storm moves in here, and boom. So now I'm at the point where I can get back in here and I can start working with my plants to try to rescue those plants, get them healthy again. Now, if I've planted these on bare dirt, which I have in the past, this is the first year I've used our lazy garden kit because I'm trying to control the weeds better. But if I got these in bare dirt, the first thing I want to do is go in there and cultivate that soil to break that crust up so it can breathe so that my soil dries out quicker. However, I'm not allowed that with the lazy garden kit because that's the whole purpose of the lazy garden kit is I don't have to do that. So there's nothing really I could do to help dry the soil out. I had to wait on Mother Nature to take care of that. But just as soon as I could get in here to do anything, I got in here and did a fungicide application. The first application I did was Garden Phos. And Garden Phos is a great one. I'm gonna talk it more in detail in just a minute. But Garden Phos has a broad spectrum of diseases it controls, and also it works somewhat as a curative. So I had to get something on them real fast. I knew I had to hit them hard, and Garden Phos was my choice. With diseases, we have to understand how they work and how we're going to combat them. Okay, you see these leaves here, these older leaves on my watermelon plants, they're looking really junky. Got all kind of stuff going on there, and it's not good. So these leaves that you see right here are never going to get any better regardless how healthy I get this plant, regardless of how many fungicide applications, that leaf there is never going to turn around and look like this leaf here does, like a nice healthy leaf. What we have to understand is we got to go after those pathogens so that they don't spread to our new growth, and we got to promote new growth, and we got to protect new growth against those pathogens there. Basically what we got to do is grow our way out of these troubles. That leaf is always going to look that way. We're never going to change it regardless of what we do. So our approach is going to be twofold. We want to make sure we feed these plants well so they grow, have nice new growth there. We have these plants nice, healthy, and green, and we encourage good, healthy growth. We need to manage our vines, and doing that by creating that nice, lush new growth. Then we've got to protect that new growth from those pathogens that we have from the rainy weather we had or from any bad weather that it's going to come. Most of our diseases is come through water, leaf wetnesses, overcast days, those days where you have 2 or 3 days of rain, that's where we get most of our disease problems at. High humidity can also cause those. Now there's a whole host of watermelon diseases that we have to be concerned about. All right, just to give you an example of them, alternaria leaf spot, we got anthracnose, we got downy mildew, we got gummy stem blight, powdery mildew, oh man, alternaria leaf blight, all kind of issues that these watermelon plants can have, and we got to protect them from those pathogens. Okay, so let's go over a spray program that's going to protect your watermelons from all those diseases. The first one we want to talk about is liquid cop. Liquid cop is a great fungicide, and the way liquid cop works is you spray it on that plant and it kills any of those pathogens that's on the surface of that plant, that tissue, or that leaf. Therefore, it is a good curative, but it also could be a preventative. If you got that liquid cop laying on the leaf there and a pathogen tries to set up homestead on that leaf there, it will kill it. So it can work as a curative stage and it can work as a preventive stage. Now, one thing about liquid cop is you don't want to spray it at bloom stage. It's one of those, when you start blooming, you want to back off from your liquid cop. Use it anytime during that, and we don't want to use it 2 weeks before harvest. The normal rate of application is going to be 3/4 of an ounce per gallon of water, and of course we want to spray that leaf and get good leaf coverage. Next one's garden phos, and I love this one because it's got a very unique mode of action, or the way it works. Also, about 3/4 of an ounce per gallon is going to be your application rate. Get good coverage on that plant tissue as well. But this product right here has some localized systemic activity to it. What that means is when you spray it on that plant, it can be absorbed through that tissue wall of that leaf and moved localized throughout the plant somewhat on the leaf tissue to kill those bad diseases that is within your plant. I love that mode of action because that offers something that some of the rest of them do not. Now basically what it is, it's a fertilizer on steroids. It is a phosphorus acid, and it also helps stimulate the plant there. But it works on a host of different pathogens or diseases. You can spray it and it works as a curative. Also, we get some preventative control out of it, but the mode of action on it is actually just wonderful. The next one is our vegetable, fruit, flower, and ornamental, and the active ingredient is called chlorothianil. Been around for a long time. It works wonderful. A lot of our pumpkin growers use it because it keeps those pathogens from getting into the plant. It is what we classify as a protectant. We spray it on the plant at a rate of 1.5 ounce per gallon of water, and you'll see a little white film on that plant. And basically all it does is protect those pathogens from entering that plant. It works really good for downy control, for powdery mildew control, and a host of others as well. But it doesn't have any systemic, it doesn't have any curative properties to it. It's basically a preventative, but it works good. Normal application rate is 7 to 10 days apart. If you get a heavy rain, any of these fungicides can be washed off and you have to reapply, so keep that in mind. But all three of those right there, you can reapply within 7 to 10 days apart. But here's what I think we need to do. I think we need to rotate those because they have different modes of actions. They attack these diseases differently. We need to rotate them. We need to spray. Example of that is we need to spray the copper 1 week, liquid cop. Next week, spray the garden phos, and the next week, use something like the chlorothianil. That'll give us a 3-week rotation with different material so that we can combat these and protect these plants from those hard pathogens right there. I think that is a great strategy to protect our plants. Now, with any of these applications, it's best to apply them late in the afternoon, right before dark, so that they can get on that plant and they can dry and they're not stressed out by the sun. You can get some damage with especially garden phos. If you spray it in the middle of the day, you can get a little burn on the leaf. So it's important to spray all these late in the afternoon so that that plant takes it in, sits on it overnight, and it does its job. Now, I'm on a tight 7-day rotation spraying my fungicides because I got so much disease pressure. For me, it's just easier to do it once a week. Sunday afternoon before dark is the time I come out here and do that application. It just comes back to me every Sunday afternoon. I've got to do that. So that's a good way of me keeping up when to spray. If got bad weather, I'll put it off to the next day. But generally speaking, I stay on that strict 7-day rotation spraying my fungicide on my watermelons. Okay, so we've got the fungicide thing down pat. Now let's move over to getting those plants nice and healthy and growing. So what I'm gonna do after I've treated my fungicide is I'm also gonna feed my plants. And today I'm gonna inject some 20-20-20 into my drip tubing for my watermelons to give them all the food they need to grow. So I have put, now keep in mind, I got 2 lazy garden kits here, which is 2 15 by 30 kits. So I've got 60 feet, no, excuse me, I got 30 feet by 30 feet of plots going. And what I did today is I put me 2 this right here holds 4 ounces. I put this evened up on 4 ounces. I put 2 of these leveled off of 20-20-20 in my fertilizer injector. Then I also put 8 ounces of micro boost in my fertilizer injector. Now my plants are not really struggling for moisture, but I need to get some fertilizer to them, and they could use a little bit of moisture. So it's time I make sure that I give these plants some food right here, and this will be a good jump start to make that plant shoot out some new growth, keep it nice, green, and healthy. Well, neighbor, it's fact of the matter, we can't control the weather. If you grow melons, you're going to have disease problems because everything's not perfect in this world, unfortunately. But I think if you follow that strict rotation there, like I'm going to follow, with those 3 fungicides on, I'm talking about strict rotation. If you get behind a day or two, make sure you keep up. Keep something on to protect them. Keep those plants fed well. You can make a healthy watermelon crop.